City today, the nurses' strike continues into an 11th day as thousands demand better staffing and pay. ABC's Phil Tate.
Last night, the nurses gathered in Washington Heights for a candlelight vigil demanding hospitals take action now. It was last week, Monday. 15,000 nurses in Manhattan and the Bronx walked off the job, standing together in solidarity. They're calling for better pay and benefits, increased staffing, and tighter workplace security at Mount Sinai, New York Presbyterian, and Montefiore.
The Eagles have reached another entertainment milestone.
This is just one of the songs on the Eagles' greatest hits, 1971 to 75, that was already the best-selling album of all time. Now it's the first to ever go quadruple diamond, selling over 40 million units, according to the Recording Industry Association of America. Leave it to the Eagles, though, to overachieve further. Their album Hotel California, which was released in 1976, has become the third best-selling album of all time. In between them, Michael Jackson's Thriller. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
The families of victims and NASA employees gathered today at the Kennedy Space Center for the 40th anniversary of the Challenger shuttle disaster that killed all 7 on board back in 1986. The center's deputy director, Kevin Manning, reflecting on the impact of the tragedy, saying those painful lessons require constant vigilance now more than ever. Dave Packer, ABC News.
Career changers, including veterans and active duty service members. Your transition starts here. Go from GI to IT in a matter of months. Become a certified cyber warrior with training at My Computer Career. Cybersecurity specialists are in high demand, offering IT pros great opportunities and a rewarding lifestyle while protecting our people, liberty, and treasured institutions from cyber threats. Deploy your career in IT today at mycomputercareer.edu/CWP, an elite CompTIA certification partner.
VA education benefits are available to those who qualify. News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
It's now 5:08 at News Talk KVNU, and I'm Will Feelright with your local news headlines during KVNU's For the People show. Well, Utah Governor Spencer Cox set to deliver his State of the State address tonight, outlining his administration's legislative priorities and goals for the coming year. Now, the address is scheduled to begin at 6:30 in the House chamber of the Utah State Capitol. Now, the governor is expected to speak to both the Utah State Legislature and the public, providing a roadmap for policy initiatives as the 45-day session begins. Now, this annual address traditionally highlights key issues such as the state budget, education, and also infrastructure. Now, the speech comes amid a busy start so far to the 2026 legislative session, which has already seen significant debate regarding judicial reforms and also education funding. Now, we'll be broadcast locally here on News Talk KVNU beginning at 6:30. In other news, a 78-year-old man died earlier this week after being hit by a pickup truck while crossing the street in southern Utah. Now, the incident occurred just before 8 a.m. on Main Street in Delta. According to the Department of Public Safety, the man was using a wheeled walker to cross the road and had nearly reached the opposite side when he was hit by a Dodge Ram pickup. Now, the impact threw the man into a parking lane. Emergency responders transported the victim to a local hospital in serious to critical condition, where he died about an hour and a half later. Now, the driver of the truck remained at the scene and has cooperated with the investigation. And an Ogden City police officer is being called a hero for saving residents from a house fire that happened yesterday morning after spotting flames while out on patrol. Now, the officer was driving near 23rd Street and Monroe Boulevard when he noticed flames coming from the roof of a home. Now, he immediately stopped and assisted the residents in evacuating the building before firefighters arrived. No injuries were reported in the incident. Ogden City firefighters were dispatched to the scene and had the flames extinguished by about 5:30. Now, the cause of that fire remains under investigation. And a 31-year-old man in Ogden died yesterday morning after being struck by a Union Pacific train. Now, the Ogden Police Department reported the incident occurred just before 5 a.m. and involved a southbound train. Now, emergency responders arrived shortly after the collision, but the man was pronounced dead at the scene. Authorities have confirmed his identity and have been notifying his family. Now, investigators with the Ogden Police Department and the Weber-Morgan County Metro Crash Team are currently working to determine the circumstances of the crash, including whether or not the man may have intentionally been on the tracks. Well, more hazy skies continuing overnight tonight as temperatures are going to drop into the mid-teens. And looking at tomorrow and into the weekend, well, more of this same mostly clear, hazy skies each day with temperatures staying right in the low 40s with overnight temperatures into the teens. It could see a few clouds, though, coming in Friday night, and that might clear up the air just a little for us heading into the weekend. But no chance of any snow through the next 7 days of the forecast. And it's Valley Recycling that brings you our weather. If you're looking for cash on the spot, yeah, they'll pay you cash for metal, copper, aluminum, steel, old cars, old appliances. It's at 145 North, 10th West in Logan, Valley Recycling. And I'm Will Feelwright. KVNU News Time is now 5:08, and more of KVNU's For the People show next.
Breaking news, stimulating talk is what we do. KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Do you suffer from consistent symptoms like these, and no matter how many doctors you see, things don't improve?
I definitely had fatigue and unexplained weight gain, brain fog, my joints hurt, and I just didn't feel like me. The last couple of years, I just had doctors telling me, oh, you're over 40, we can put you on prescriptions, and I just knew that wasn't what I wanted.
In a conventional model, it's typically one size fits all. Everyone's herded around like sheep and treated the exact same way. When they come to Red River, it's important to customize the treatment plan for that specific patient.
Talking with Dr. Swindlehurst, I just immediately felt like he was listening. He had a plan for me individually as a human being. If you're feeling the way that I was feeling, there's no reason that you can't go in for a consultation and do your blood work and see what they say.
If you're battling autoimmune symptoms, we have personalized options just for you.
Call Red River Health and Wellness at 855-55-RIVER.
Call Red River today.
The annual Greater Cache Valley Economic Summit, brought to you by Cache Valley Chamber of Commerce and Bank of Utah, is Tuesday, February 10th at the Riverwoods Conference Center. This year features a panel from USU, and keynote speaker is Tim Mahidi, founder and chief economist at Access Macro, a consulting company that makes smart banks smarter. Come enjoy a great day of learning, networking, and lunch catered by Elements Restaurant. It's the annual Greater Cache Valley Economic Summit, Tuesday, February 10th at the Riverwoods Conference Center. Register online now at cashchamber.com. That's cashchamber.com.
It's time for USU Hockey at the Eccles Ice Center tonight, 7 p.m. sharp. The University of New Hampshire Wildcats invade Aggie home ice. Make sure they know this is the Aggies' house. See all the hockey action beginning at 7 o'clock tonight. Avoid the long lines. Get your tickets early at usuhockey.com. That's usuhockey.com. And day of at the Eccles Ice Center in North Logan. USU Hockey takes on New Hampshire tonight, 7 p.m. Do you have your tickets?
Do you need cash? Turn yesterday's scrap into today's cash instantly at Valley Recycling. We make it easy to turn your old metal into money. Got aluminum, copper, steel? Bring it in, and we'll pay you cash on the spot. No waiting, no hassle. Old appliances, scrap from a job, or that pile of cans? We'll take it all. It's simple. You bring the metal, and you take home the cash. We're Valley Recycling at 145 North 10th West in Logan.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Hour 2 of today's show. 36 degrees here at the Radio Ranch at 5:12 in the afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks to Charlie Schill for being here as well. And if you have not seen it, I've linked to it on our Facebook page. This made the rounds earlier this week on social media, but it's now made its way into ABC News coverage, actually, of current events. But it's a simple video of a cow scratching itself with a broom And it is so funny. It's about 23 seconds long. It's gone viral on every platform. I saw it all over TikTok, Snap, Instagram. It is real. It's been verified. It's not AI. And it is the viral moment of the week so far. Outside of politics, where some actually even weirder things have gone viral. But a lot to get to. Several Utah lawmakers will be holding a press conference tomorrow morning on what they call the results of a recent violent crime summit here in Utah. And the result is a package of bills that they'll be unveiling. They put out an embargoed press release. So some parts of this were embargoed, but they said it was okay to talk about the language of the legislation because, of course, that's public record and it is already available online. So I took a look at it and we'll break it down for you. This could be a pretty big deal. And this is one of those, well, at least one of the bills, it's one of those situations where you look at the bill and you think to yourself, why has no one thought of this before as a way to combat? Again, we're talking violent crime, not just crime in general here. So we'll talk about that coming up later on in the show. Press release out just about a half an hour ago from outgoing Representative Tyler Clancy. He will serve through the legislative session, and then he's actually been appointed to an important position by the governor, so he'll leave this session and not run for re-election. But he's trying to do, he says, as much as he can. He's a police officer. That's his day job. He's trying to do as much as he can to kind of set things right, he says, when it comes to how law enforcement functions in Utah and making it easier for them to do their job, but also trying to make sure that the job they do is benefiting the public the most. So we'll talk about that coming up later on in the hour. To start things off here, next week, the 28th specifically, marks the 40th anniversary of the Shuttle Challenger accident, that tragedy. Most people listening lived through this. If you are hearing about it for the first time, it was the morning of January 28th, 1986. That would be next Wednesday. Exactly, 40 years ago, and all 7 on board the Challenger shuttle were killed when the Challenger broke apart. Investigations afterwards, of course, revealed that a faulty O-ring in one of the fuel cells was one of the was the cause, and the bitter cold that kind of weakened that O-ring before liftoff that morning. It was a gigantic O-ring in the right solid rocket booster, causing the shuttle to rupture. It's about 72 seconds after liftoff. You hear command say, go for throttle up, and then you hear someone on Challenger reply, okay for throttle up. And as soon as they throttle up, that's when the entire thing just bursts into a ball of flame. And then you see, black pieces of debris falling down for quite some time after that. The overall ramifications of this, of course, it revealed a pretty dysfunctional safety culture at NASA with redundant safety checks and mechanisms in place. But because of their redundancy, sometimes no one was checking them off because they assumed someone else was because of the redundancies. And they believe that there was a big report. A commission was put together, of course. Big report was put out, but it took about 17 years before all of the recommendations from that commission were finally put into place. And Kennedy Space Center's Deputy Director Kelvin Manning said this week at an event at the Kennedy Space Center in commemoration of the 40th anniversary coming up next week, he said that there were many, quote, humble and painful lessons. And since then, NASA has had a constant vigilance when it comes to the safety of astronauts and crew involved in these endeavors. Challenger's crew that day of the accident included school teacher Krista McAuliffe, who was selected from a group of 100 teachers representing every state that had volunteered to be on this flight. And two of her fellow teachers and space contenders, both retired now, spoke at the memorial yesterday at the Kennedy Space Center and said they're still close together today. It was something that affected them. The fact that they were in the pool for this, it could have been them. Krista won. Bob Villieu, who is now retired, New Hampshire school teacher, said that he taught astronomy, by the way, but he said he was jealous. He said he remembers standing there at the launch near the launch pad for that morning, watching, knowing that Krista got to go and he didn't. It was a random lottery that they pulled from these 100 teachers that had qualified. And he said, I remember being jealous of Krista, and then I remember weeks, even months of guilt afterwards because I was relieved that I wasn't the one on the shuttle in the end. Another person, Bob Forster, who was a sixth grade math and science teacher from Indiana at the time, now retired, of course. He was among the top 10 finalists and said that he's grateful that the space education program blossomed after the incident. He was worried that it would lead to a decline in NASA and space exploration. So he said he's happy that this led to changes for safety reasons, but he's most happy that it didn't kill the space program outright. And there is 25 names are carved into the black mirror finished granite at an official memorial there at it's called the Space Mirror Memorial at the Kennedy Visitor Complex at the Space Center there. And there's 25 names carved into the black mirror finish granite. The Challenger 7, of course, the 7 who perished, and alongside them, the Columbia disaster from 2003, another 7 there, and then 3 killed in the Apollo 1 fire back in 1967, January 27th, 1967. And all those lost in plane and other on-the-job accidents as well. So total of 25 names are currently carved into that black mirror memorial at the Kennedy Space Center's visitor complex. And at the presentation yesterday at the Kennedy Space Center, relatives of those who died on Columbia and Apollo crews stood alongside those related to those who died in the Challenger disaster 40 years ago from next week. And they all attended NASA's Day of Remembrance, which is held each year on the fourth Thursday of January. A video of that ceremony was played yesterday at the Kennedy Space Center as well. I've linked to that on our Facebook page, actually, if you want to see that whole presentation. And there was a moment, though, I just wanted to highlight this, that it was kind of touching. A brother of Apollo 1 Commander Gus Grimson, again, Apollo 1 fire that killed 3 was January 27th, 1967. A brother of Gus Grissom, who was the commander of Apollo 1 when that fire took his life, and 2 others, spoke at the event yesterday at Kennedy Space Center, and he said, I've spent my whole life wondering what Gus would have accomplished. There was a lot of intelligence there, a lot of talent there, and his life was cut too short, far too soon. So just a little bit. Now, ABC News has a big, full-on, I think, hour-long special they're planning on this next week on the actual date of the memorial, January 28th. That's next Wednesday, the 40th anniversary of the shuttle disaster. But they put out a bit of a trailer for this, and here's just a little bit of that 3-minute-long trailer that they put out that captures the scenes as ABC was covering the Challenger launch that day in 1986 live. There, of course, is the moment that most of us are familiar with when you hear ground control say, go for throttle up, meaning they can burn the rest of the fuel in that solid canister and then drop it and increase their speed. You hear ground control say, go for throttle up. You hear someone on the Challenger say, okay for throttle up. And then, of course, immediately there's 73 seconds into the launch, there's the explosion. We now know everyone on board killed instantly, an O-ring affected by the bitter temperatures that morning and possibly some faulty design and a lack of a key safety check. We're at the heart of that. led to vast changes at NASA and even some redesign in the program itself. But after that explosion, the live coverage that day was just a lot of silence and crackling and static over the radios, and news agencies didn't really know what to do. They weren't sure what had just happened, and they didn't know if they should cut away or stick with it, because normally they would air these until the shuttle actually left Earth's atmosphere, and sometimes that would be an hour-long event or half-hour-long event. And so they were carrying it live on ABC that morning. Around 11:38 a.m., the coverage started. And here's just a little bit of after the explosion, when ABC finally breaks in to just kind of confirm everybody's worst fears.
And fixed.
Reports from the flight dynamics officer indicate that the vehicle apparently exploded and that impact in the water had a...
Good morning, everyone. There appears to have been a very serious accident involving the Space Shuttle Challenger. The launch took place just a few moments ago from Cape Canaveral. It had been delayed 4 times. It appeared to be a good launch at the point of departure from the pad at Cape Canaveral. There had been, as we said, previous delays of 4 different attempts. This was the 4th one. It had been delayed a couple of hours by ice, by a faulty gauge. Then it appeared everything was good for a launch, but shortly after the launch, there was an explosion. We have a tape now, a replay of the launch of the Shuttle Challenger this morning.
104%.
This was shortly after the launch,
We'll throttle down to 65%.
which took place shortly after 11:30 Eastern Time. It appeared that all was going well until there was a massive explosion in space. NASA has confirmed that there was an explosion with the capsule, the shuttle itself. Aboard this flight, of course, the first teacher in space, Krista McAuliffe from New Hampshire. Also aboard the flight, pilot Mike Smith, Commander Dick Scobie, Judy Resnick, and there it is. There you see that massive explosion in space, obviously a very serious accident. Let's listen to Mission Control. No communication at this precise point. They have assured us that all rescue procedures have been put into effect, but line of sight, it certainly appears to be a most serious accident, unlike anything else in the shuttle program. John Quinones at Cape Canaveral.
Here looking very carefully at the situation.
John, what do we know?
Well, Steve, no one is saying anything here other than there has been an explosion. Contingency procedures are underway. Recovery forces have been sent out into the field. Preliminary word is that the remains of the vehicle have landed somewhere in the ocean. We don't know how far, but there's been no explanation as to what happened about 90 seconds after liftoff, and it was a picture-perfect liftoff. Suddenly, as you saw it there, it exploded. There is no word on what happened. We have seen one parachute coming down. There's been no explanation as to... I think we're seeing 2 now as to what exactly those parachutes are carrying.
That was, again, some of the live ABC News coverage from that morning, Tuesday, January 28th, 1986, around 11:30 in the morning Eastern Time. And you saw, ABC, they weren't sure really what to do. There wasn't a lot of traffic from ground control for them to air, and no one knew what had happened, and yet they were running the launch live. So some confusion there for a bit. And, of course, we learned afterwards those parachutes were just, after the explosion, basically thrown from the shuttle itself. There were no survivors, and it led to a completely changed safety culture at NASA, one silver lining from the tragedy. So, again, the memorial on this is officially next Wednesday, the 28th, 40-year anniversary of the Challenger shuttle disaster from January 28th, 1986, and ABC has a full 1-hour special they'll be broadcasting that evening, and I believe making available online earlier in the day. So if you want to catch up or keep an eye out for that. We'll be back with more of KVNU's For the People. Talk about what happened on Capitol Hill today as the legislative session continues in week one. We'll be back right after this.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
Winter's cold winds, dry air, and blowing heaters can leave your eyes feeling more irritated than ever. Hi, this is Dr. Rebecca Freeman with Northern Utah Eye Center. We diagnose and treat dry eye disease with easy in-office procedures such as IPL or LipiFlow that provide relief and comfort to dry eyes this winter season. All of us at Northern Utah Eye Center are dedicated to providing excellent care for all your eye care needs. And thank you for voting Northern Utah Eye Center Best Ophthalmologist and Best Optometrist in Northern Utah. Visit northernutaheyecenter.com or call 752-2020 today.
You're gonna love what you see.
Hey, Northern Utah! The 4th annual Northern Utah RV Show is January 22nd through the 24th inside the Golden Spike Event Center. See the newest RV models and score 2025 prices on 2026 RVs, with new RVs starting at just $10,995 and payments as low as $129 a month OAC. Walk through and compare, all in one place. Admission is free. January 22nd through the 24th inside the Golden Spike Event Center in Ogden. Sponsored by Bish's RV. Get all the details at NorthUtahRVShow.com.
Friday edition, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show. Woo, what a week. We will give you the absolute latest on Greenland, on Venezuela, on Cuba, and we'll continue to track what's happening in Minneapolis, all that and more. We're joined by Tricia McLaughlin of DHS. She's the spokesperson there. What is the absolute latest on ICE and the way that they are being treated? And we will also talk with Mary Margaret Olahan, who is spending the day with Vice President J.D. Vance in Minneapolis. All that and more. Friday edition, Clay and Buck.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Making up for lost time after a slow day yesterday, and Tuesday just being the opening day when really not a lot of official action takes place anyway. A lot of speeches and presentations and things like that. But the 45-day legislative session is underway. They are still on Capitol Hill as we speak now. I think they're planning on wrapping up around 6 o'clock tonight. But a couple of highlights from the day for you to pay attention to. First up, keep an eye on this one. The bill itself was heard in a committee today, and in the end, it was put on pause for the committee. And that means the bill is not dead whatsoever, but it didn't officially move forward. It was also a bill that received quite a bit of public comments from other lawmakers, which doesn't always happen. And then went back to the committee about an hour later and passed out of the committee unanimously, which was a surprise, I think, to everyone. The bill itself is, in short, Representative Coford, the sponsor of this bill. It's House Bill 76, if you want to read it, but short version, this is basically a bill that requires any data centers constructed in Utah to disclose their water use to the state. And it's actually a first of a series of bills that are kind of aimed at AI and AI data centers. The governor has signaled this is something Utah wants to welcome, wants to invite, because it's good money for the state. It is also arguably the future of data storage and computing in general, cloud computing for the world. So one state saying no to these isn't going to stop AI. Although I think we need to maybe slow our roll on AI. It's here. Whether it becomes what those who have already invested a lot of money in it and are hoping to make a lot of money off of it are promising it will be is a whole different question, and we could do a whole show on that alone. But the bill itself is pretty simple. It just basically says it directs land use authorities to issue certain notices to the public once this data is accumulated. and it requires that large data centers have to communicate with Utah's water providers, and then it requires reporting by the operators of any data centers in Utah. I'm sorry, certain data centers in Utah. Small, little data centers are not going to be, a part of this. But we're talking these large AI data centers that many companies have already proposed building in Utah and Nevada, which is ironic because they're desert states. This bill requires that the operators of certain data centers before construction and annually disclose their reported water use to the public. And I expected this bill to go up in flames because Utah's legislature normally doesn't like to tell business, especially big business, what to do. They're kind of okay with it with small business. If you've ever paid your state taxes as a small business, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But Rep. Coford says the industry, quote, as a whole is moving towards better conservation practices, but they still function right now in closed loop or outside of closed loop systems, meaning they're going to be sucking up a lot of water until they get into a closed loop system. She says there's a trade-off with energy consumption, of course, that the public in the end could be on the hook for. And that's what her bill, she says, means to solve. Basically making sure the public is not on the hook for this. By publishing the information, making the information public and requiring them to report, the public can be aware of water consumption and then contrast that with residential water use, agricultural water use. And so then if they come back, the assumption here, if the legislature comes back in the future and says, look at your water use. We're a desert state. We're trying to do everything we can to conserve. You're using this much water just to cool your data center, and you haven't put a closed loop system in place. The technology on those is there, but not quite there yet. And so as a state, we're going to tax you more. You're a burden. We're going to tax you more if you want to operate here. Rep. Cutler, a Republican, joined with the Democrat sponsor, Colford, and said, Utah's a desert. We need to be smart about our water. Cutler says that he thanked Colford for her bill and said this is an important issue, and he believes that not only will it be good for the public, but it will encourage data centers to upgrade and be efficient in their water use. There was a long discussion about this one, questions about why the bill mandates 180 days lead time for reporting, making them report in advance, basically. Cutler said, I'm concerned that's a bit excessive. Representative Owens, another Republican, said he likes the bill, especially the public-facing transparency components, but also says, Bluffdale facility currently uses 23 million a month, gallons of water, and Nova uses 85,000 in a month, and he wonders if this is going to be unfair to certain businesses that are using more. And Rep. Colford said, well, that's tough. Another Republican cautioned that they need to ensure that they're not enacting, burdensome regulation that could result in a lawsuit and hold the whole thing up. So there were some small changes made to the bill on that front. And Colford reiterated again and again, we're not regulating anything other than transparency and reporting, a very minor ask. And she pointed out that Utah State engineers say this will not affect water rights in any way. Companies can buy water from providers the same way. We're just requiring that they report it to the state so the public can know what these companies are using. Evan Barrett, of the city council member from Eagle Mountain, spoke in support of the bill today, says that as a city, they'd been given some very misleading reporting from some of these companies that are aiming to build data centers in the Eagle Mountain area. And he said it led to the city not being able to make certain decisions because they couldn't rely on the data. The bill, after this lengthy discussion, passed unanimously out of committee, which is almost a guarantee the bill will pass when it gets to the House floor. What happens in the Senate, though, a whole nother story. But I'm surprised. I thought this one was DOA, and they pushed it out of committee unanimously today. On the other side, Representative Tyler Clancy, an outgoing representative. This is his last session. He's a police officer. He was worked in law enforcement his whole life since college, and he says he's got an idea to reduce violent crime in Utah. It's pretty creative, and they're holding a press conference tomorrow, but I got some early details. We'll talk about it after these headlines with KVNU's Will Feel Right.
Well, thank you, Jason. Did you feel the earthquake earlier today? A magnitude 4.7 earthquake rattled parts of southeast Wyoming and here in northern Utah. Now, it was centered just south of the state line. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the quake occurred at 7:49 this morning and was centered about 25 miles south of Evanston, Wyoming. Now, residents across the Wasatch Front and parts of Uinta County had reported feeling the tremor, which originated at a relatively shallow depth. Now, law enforcement has confirmed that there were no injuries reported and no major damage. Most residents in this area reported just some minor light fixtures swaying side to side or china rumbling in china hutches, and, of course, no injuries. And then, of course, others didn't ever feel it. Meanwhile, in other news, residents along Hollow Road in Nibley are mobilizing to oppose the annexation of 28 acres of unincorporated farmland into Nibley city limits. Now, they fear that the move would destroy their rural lifestyle and spike property taxes. Rachel and Trevor Hansen, who are owners of the property at 5325 South Hollow Road, have petitioned the city to annex the land to develop low-density housing. Now, longtime residents who have lived in the area for over 20 years argue that the land serves as a vital natural buffer and wildlife corridor for elk, deer, and moose. Now, neighbors have circulated petitions citing concerns over increased traffic along the narrow road, which lacks sidewalks and was the site of a fatal hit-and-run years ago. Now, Nibley Mayor Larry Jacobson noted that under Utah law, residents cannot formally protest an annexation, but their feedback does inform the city council. Now, the proposal must also go before the Cache County Council because it would create an unincorporated peninsula of land. Jacobson added that if Nibley does not annex the land, the developers could potentially turn to neighboring Hiram for approval. And an 18-year-old Farmington man is now facing multiple felonies following allegations that he sexually abused his underage stepsister and recorded the assaults. Now, the investigation began back in April of last year after a 16-year-old girl reported that her stepbrother repeatedly entered her bedroom at night. Now, according to court documents, the victim told police that she would pretend to remain asleep while he recorded himself abusing her. Now, investigators allegedly discovered numerous videos of the assaults on the suspect's cell phone. Police also reportedly found recordings of a second victim, a 17-year-old girl, that showed her changing clothes. Now, the suspect's charges range from aggravated sexual exploitation of a minor, along with counts of object rape, forcible sodomy, and forcible sexual abuse. Well, we're going to continue to see these hazy skies as we head into the overnight hours, as temperatures tonight expected to drop into the mid-teens. Tomorrow we'll be back into the high 30s to low 40s. Could see a few clouds coming in tomorrow night. That might help clear out at least some of the haze as we head into the weekend. But looking at the extended forecast, it doesn't look like we have much of a change coming, as it's supposed to stay mostly clear, hazy conditions with temperatures staying right in the low 40s each day and overnight temperatures into the mid-teens. And weather this hour is brought to you by Matt Robbins at Quality First Insurance, helping to protect your vehicle, your home, with hassle-free care. He has access to multiple insurance carriers and can give you options. If you want more information, give him a call at 752-0101 or online at q1ins.com. And you can always get more on these and other stories at kvnutalk.com or the KVNU mobile app, available for download at the Google Play Store and Apple App Store. I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU local headlines.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. A monster storm about to sweep its way across much of the U.S. Watches and warnings stretching from Montana to Maine and from New Mexico to the Carolinas. ABC's Whit Johnson.
From across the Atlanta area to Jackson, Missouri to Oklahoma City, parking lots and gas stations packed, shelves stripped bare. Delta canceling flights in 5 states, most airlines offering to waive change fees. New York City bracing for 6 to 12 inches of snow. Sanitation officials promising they're ready.
Vice President J.D. Vance making a stop in Minneapolis today, meeting with ICE agents. This comes amid increased scrutiny of the detention of a 5-year-old boy and his father by federal agents after arriving home from preschool. Gripping testimony on Capitol Hill for the first time in public. Former Special Prosecutor Jack Smith defending his decision to indict President Trump. Smith saying he had, quote, proof beyond a reasonable doubt that the president engaged in criminal activity. This is ABC News.
We start each new year filled with hope and prosperity for things to come. At Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology, it's no different. Dr. Danes is so grateful to get to call Cache Valley home and continue to offer his services to the wonderful people that live in our beautiful valley. He wants to help you start your new year off right by improving your hearing, which over the course of time will help improve your quality of life. Give them a call at 435-753-4327 or 753-HERE to schedule an appointment, or you can visit them online at CacheValleyHearing.com.
You've got your whole life ahead of you, so choose a Medicare plan you can count on. And if you have both Medicare and Medicaid, you may be eligible for a United Healthcare Dual Complete plan if your Medicaid status has changed. A Dual Complete plan may help you get more benefits than original Medicare alone. Visit uhcdualplans.com to learn more. That's uhcdualplans.com. United Healthcare Medicare plans. It's Medicare coverage you can count on.
This is the Sean Hannity Show.
Look at California now. They're proposing this billionaire tax. Okay, so now all these billionaires, like Larry Page, co-founder of Google, Larry Ellison of Oracle, they're leaving California. And one article today on FoxNews.com, they had $2 trillion of billionaire wealth that went into the coffers of California. $1 trillion of it has already fled in anticipation of this tax. It is insanity.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 1 to 4 on News Talk KVNU.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Press conference on this will take place tomorrow morning. A lot of the information, including the remarks that were made, is embargoed, but you don't see this often. Representative Tyler Clancy and some other lawmakers send out a half-embargoed, half-not-embargoed press release today. All involved, you have Representative Tyler Clancy, a Republican from Provo. He's also a police officer. He works in law enforcement as his day job. But alongside him tomorrow morning will be the Senator Mike McKell, Republican from Spanish Fork, Representative Verona Mauga, Democrat from West Valley City, Chief Jake Suby, Ogden City Police Department, Carl Holland, I think I'm saying that right, Utah Statewide Association of Prosecutors, and Jason Olin, a man we've actually spoken to here on the show before, Senior Government Affairs Manager for the libertarian-leaning Niskanen Center. And speaking alongside them at this press conference, there will be, after this press conference, there will actually be a whole event, which you can get tickets to. That won't take place until the 27th. The keynote event. So if you want to attend this, it's Tuesday, January 27th, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the state capitol. And you can actually get tickets to this event. Well, you don't really get tickets. You reserve a spot because they're doing this literally in the main area of the capitol. So there's only a limited number of space for chairs, but they can fit several hundred people in there. So if you're interested in going, they're calling this the Utah Violent Crime Summit. The goal of this, Representative Clancy says, and again, I'm reading from a press release here in which his remarks and the remarks of the keynote speakers, which will include Attorney General Derek Brown, Utah Department of Public Safety Commissioner Bo Mason, Charles Lemon from the Manhattan Institute, Greg Newbern from the Niskanen Center, and Utah Criminal Justice JJ Director Tom Ross. All of them will be speaking at this event. Again, the press conference tomorrow morning on the bills themselves. Then this keynote event next Tuesday starting at 6:30 at the state capitol in the presentation room. That's on the main floor. It's Capitol Room 100. Representatives of the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute and the Thomas S. Monson Center will also be there, by the way. So a lot of people speaking, and what is the point of all of this, basically? bipartisan legislation. This is legislation that has been written by Republicans and Democrats alike, sponsored officially by Representative Tyler Clancy in the House, the main author, and a Senate floor sponsor, Senator Mike McKell. It is House Bill 137. And Representative Clancy says in the part of the press release that I'm allowed to read you, because the rest is embargoed until tomorrow morning, but there is a paragraph before the embargoed portion that I can read you. And he says basically that this is his last session. He's been appointed to an important position that's also involved with crime and safety by Governor Cox. So he won't run for re-election. So he will serve out the remainder of his term as a state lawmaker and serve on this board that he's been appointed to as the governor. But he won't run for re-election. That was his first announcement. He's since decided he's going to resign at the end of the session to allow for a special election to take place earlier. Probably smart, but he is in his final session. He says he wants to do some things that stem from what he learned as a police officer over his years. He's a young guy, but he's been a police officer, I think, for about 10 years now. And he says that, and his father before him, he says that he's learned a lot on that job and as a state lawmaker about crime and punishment. And last year he ran several bills that were somewhat controversial. He did away with safe drug use areas in Utah. These were supervised places where drug addicts could come and get access to clean needles and basically use their drug of choice. The idea behind this, even though it doesn't make sense, it sounds nonsensical, the idea behind it is actually very smart. And that is that you have an area where you could have paramedics on hand if someone overdoses, but also just simply giving people access to clean needles is a great way to reduce the spread of disease. And you're acknowledging that someone's not going to become an addict, not an addict overnight. But what they would do is they'd go out and have conversations with people that came to these safe use spots, most of them in Salt Lake County. I think there's one in Ogden for a little while. Law enforcement and social workers would go out and actually talk to people who came there to these safe use spots. And a lot of times that would result in that person going into treatment for drug addiction. It worked. Representative Clancy said the problem is the data shows that even though they worked, it was a huge cost for very little benefit, and he believes there's a better way. So he ran some of those bills last year, just to give you some background on who this guy is as a lawmaker. Anyway, and he's a nice guy. I had a chance to meet him. He's very thoughtful. This bill is one of those that you read through it and you think, I'm kind of surprised no one thought to do this before. So what caught my eye when I saw this press release is here you have a state lawmaker saying, I've got a bill that will reduce violent crime in Utah. Well, that's an extremely hard thing to do, and I guarantee you every LEO, member of law enforcement out there, from sheriff's deputies to city police to highway patrol, and prosecutors alongside them would probably tell you, you're probably not solving violent crime with legislation. You can do things to help with legislation, but you're not solving it with a bill. It's been tried, and to their consternation, it's more on their shoulders and what they do in their jobs than any idea a state lawmaker can have, except for this one. This is so. One of the things when I had a chance to talk with Representative Clancy, I teased him a little bit. Because I said, it's almost like those of you in law enforcement, you have to wrench yourself away from some of those drug war ideas, things that we know didn't work. And you often hear people saying, we should have never done away with 3 strikes laws and mandatory minimums. And no, we should have. The data was clear. They didn't do a thing to fight the, quote, war on drugs. They just resulted in a lot more people being in prison. And if you want to call that effective, go ahead. It's not. Honestly, the problem is far deeper than that. And so Rep. Clancy and I had this great conversation about that, saying that it's an opportunity to basically to do things differently. I think is the way I would put it. But the real issue behind some of this is that oftentimes all you can do is throw money at it. And now, to be clear, this is a bill throwing money at it. But wait, before you just outright condemn this, the bill itself creates a grant program, but not just for anybody. It's a grant program for sorry, that's something I'm looking at here on my screen that's currently frozen. The bill itself creates a grant program for law enforcement. This is so simple. Again, it blows me away that no one has thought of this before. It is that simple. So what this bill will do basically is it's going to create something called the Violent Crime Clearance Rate Fund. And that, of course, is going to include, going through the legislative appropriations process, contributions from private sources, and any interest earned will have to be covered. I mean, if you're going to put money in an account, what happens to that interest earned? So the nuts and bolts are laid out in this bill. But in the end, what this basically does is tasks the State Commission on Criminal and Juvenile Justice, a pre-existing commission, with distribution of non-lapsing violent crime-related grants. And the State Commission will be directed by this legislation, if it passes, to award these grants from this new fund, Violent Crime Clearance Rate Fund, to law enforcement agencies who have shown that they're doing something that is having a positive effect on, that is reducing violent crime. And it also, so there are some strings attached, requires law enforcement agencies that receive the grant from this Violent Crime Clearance Rate Fund to use the money for purposes related solely for solving violent crimes. They'll have to, kind of prove to the legislature as much as possible that that's what they did with the money. And, of course, they'll have to have a presentation, a pitch, if you will, to get the grant in the first place. Which will usually come along the lines of, you've got a law enforcement agency here in Utah, say it's Logan City Police, for example. Logan City Police is doing something that they believe is having a very positive effect and proving to be something that reduces violent crime. And they go ahead and say, they go to the state and say, we think this is working in our area. We would like to do this more or expand this program. Or maybe it's a situation where they have a convincing argument and say, look, we haven't tried this yet, but we think this would have a very positive effect. The state then grants them some money, and the grant itself allows them to go do that. And obviously the idea here is that you're percolating ideas. So you grant, the state grants, again, just hypothetically here, say the state grants Logan City Police Department a few $100,000, or maybe it's more than that, to experiment with something to reduce violent crime. And say, one scenario is they do that and say, it's kind of hard to say that really made a huge difference, so thank you for trying. The other possible result is, wow, that made a huge difference. That's a great idea. We are so glad that we gave you this grant money. Let's go ahead now and make this a statewide, permanently funded program, or supply the money to get every other law enforcement agency up and running doing the same things. Or, there are a million different ways this can play out. But it is, in the end, a geniusly simple idea. It really, it absolutely surprises me that this hasn't happened before. It should have happened before. We're back. Technical difficulties left and right here at the Radio Ranch today. Some engineers looking very worried back there in the room. So anyway, back to the conversation here. Sorry for a bit of downtime there. Our software, for those who want the details on this, basically our connection to the software that allows us to run the equipment in the studio and the programming in general just bellied up, and apparently the engineers don't know why. And then when they were trying to fix it, they took me out, but I'm back. So this is, again, just a quick rundown of the bill. If you want to read the entire bill, and for those just tuning in again, this is a bill creating a granting system to solve, well, that's overselling it. Even Representative Clancy says that's overselling it. So everyone's acknowledging here that no one's solving violent crime with, something this simple. This is such a simple idea, though, for figuring out how to. That's the way I would put this. Again, it's one of those bills that you read and you think, I cannot believe no one's thought of this before. And I don't mean that as a diss on previous lawmakers. I mean that as, honestly, the idea is that great. So, again, this is, I don't know how much money is going to go into this. I don't know, specifically what metrics are going to be a part of, the requirements to get a grant or to not have to, because that's one thing. The state likes to do this. If you request a grant and then you misuse those funds, you have to pay the grant back. So there's a lot of incentive here to be serious about it. It's a pretty amazing thing. Now, where's the money going to come from? So the appropriations for this violent crime reduction granting program are going to come from various different already existent money pipelines, from the Division of Air Quality, Oil, Gas, and Mining's restricted account to the Division of Water Quality, Oil, Gas, and Mining's what is basically a reimbursement for minerals extracted. The state-mandated insurer payments restricted account. I'm running through them quickly here, but basically what I'm trying to say is that this is going to be used. They're going to take money that is already available and in use for other things and repurpose it. So technically, this isn't even new government spending. It's pretty amazing. Keep an eye on this one, honestly. Again, it's House Bill 76. Press conference tomorrow. No committee hearing date yet on this, but I'm sure it's soon. But one to watch.